Hey there, Ben Lipper here. This is going to be a bit of a different video. This one's probably going to be a lot less edited and a lot less entertaining, but basically I just want to walk you through, nice and slow, the process that I personally use to read the rules. Now, I honestly don't have all of my students read the rules. I think it's an awesome thing you can do. But the fact is, this year we have an 86-page rule document, longest in history, and it's going to take us a minute to read the rules, but I just want to show you kind of what I'm looking for, how I'm going to read it, and hopefully that's going to provide some context for you, because you don't just read it like a novel. It's not quite interesting enough. It's not really a page turner. And then also, there's some key things that I'm going to be looking for, and then there's a lot of things that I'm just going to skim past, and that's going to make reading it so much faster. So let's go ahead and jump in. I am going to go ahead and start reading. So here we are. I actually have not yet read this, but this is just like the title page. Table of contents. I usually read the table of contents. I used to skip past it. It turns out it gives you a lot of cool stuff. So it looks like we're going to have kind of some intro. This stuff I probably already know. This stuff is going to be pretty important. This won't be helpful. Game definitions is going to be critical. Game-specific definitions, general won't be useful. Game-specific is going to be super useful. Scoring is going to be useful. This year, examples are probably going to come in handy a lot. I already know the safety rules, general rules, I already know most of. And then these two are going to be probably where like most of the meat and potatoes is. There's going to be a little bit of good stuff in here, specifically size box is probably going to come in inspection rules. I heard that robot skills is going to be a little bit different, so especially this one is probably going to be especially useful. This one I probably already know. That one's super short. And most of this stuff is probably pretty standard, but I'm just going to skim it to make sure there's no big changes. Once in a while, there's a major change in here, and it catches people so off guard. So I'm going to check that, and then let's see. We've got an overview and then an appendix. So, yeah, changelog hasn't had any changes yet. This thing is like honestly so helpful, this table, so I want to read all of this. The first thing I want to do though is actually go to the robot rules. There we are. So basically a little while back I made a one-page game summary, and Vex was like, hey, that's a great idea, you should do that. And so they do that too. So they now make kind of a quick game summary, treat everyone with respect. I already know that. This one I've read tons of times. Vex is a student-centered program. Basically don't have adults build the robots. There's 36 pins in each match. They're orange, blue, or red. They're scored. There are 2 gray beams. So we have 36 pins, 2 beams, 4 types of goals: square, triangle, floor, and standoff. So there's square, triangle, floor, and standoff. They got starting pegs, which they're going to be holding some of the pins on. How to make stacks of 2 or more pins. Earn points. You earn more points. They're not telling us anything super helpful in terms of numbers here. Place stacks on magicals to score even more points. I was hoping for like specific numbers. Aha, here we are. Here's some cool numbers. Robots are 11 by 20, 15 inches. Your robot has to be designed and built by students. You're not allowed to have adults. You can only use Vex parts. There's 3 students per drive team. Drive team members. Let's see, this is not super helpful down here. You can ask questions but don't argue. Scores are added up. Alright, I feel like I've read that. That's just like high-level game summary. This part makes sense to me. Now I'm going to go ahead and read through these. SC rules are usually super important. These are scoring rules. It looks like they don't have any numbers in here, but just know, I'm going to know that when we get to SC rules, I got to lock in. Safety rules, stay safe. Basically, students need an adult, and each student must have a completed participant release form. So basically, make sure you sign your participant release forms. Safety rules, I'm actually not going to read at this point. I read the summaries, we're good. General rules, be respectful. Don't have adults build the robots. Use common sense. And, oh, this was a fun story. I'll tell you guys later. But you can't switch teams. Like, you can't say your school has like an ABC team. You can't have one student write code for all 3 robots is basically what that one's saying. Sweet. So I feel like I've read these. When it comes to actually reading those, I'm just going to skip those. Game rules: drivers drive your robot. Robot team, you should be in every match. Robots on the field, ready to play. Don't stick your hand into the field. You can't like stack the pins yourself. The robots need to do that. Match replays I already know about. DQs. I'm gonna read about those. Timeout. This is a bogus rule. There's no timeouts in Vex IQ. That's literally what this rule says. Here, I'll show you. See, there are no timeouts in Vex IQ. Okay, great. I'm not quite sure why that rule's in there. I think it's so it lines up with some other game manual. Keep your robot together so you can get disqualified if your robot like splits in half and now there's 2 robots going around the field. Don't take saw blades to the field. Handling your robot mid-match is allowed. Basically, you can grab your robot, do a robot reset. Make sure you switch drivers. Your robot can't move after the match. That's hopefully obvious. And then this is going to be ending a match early. This almost never comes into play. This is only on tiebreakers that it actually matters. Or if you're just that good and lazy and want to end your match 20 seconds early because those 20 seconds are so important to you. Sweet. Specific game rules, this is where really good stuff is. Starting a match, horizontal expansion is limited. Vertical expansion is... This one's funny, actually. Here, watch. Just because I've read it. Vertical expansion is limited. Once the match starts, robots may extend with no limits. Wait a minute. It's not limited. It's supposed to say unlimited, I think. But I'm sure that'll be addressed shortly. Where were we? Here we are. So that's kind of funny. Keep scoring objects in the field, so don't like chuck your pins out of the field on purpose. Each robot gets 1 pin as a preload. That's like a first in... Oh no, last year had preloads. Never mind. Preloads are rare in Vex. And then how to load pins onto the field. Sweet. So these rules actually I kind of want to jump into, but I'm just gonna skim the other ones. 1 robot per team. Robots basically don't buy a robot from China. Past inspection. There's a difference between accidentally and intentionally violating a robot rule. That's true. Basically, don't use grease on your robot is what they're trying to say, and a bunch of other things. Don't drill out your holes to make the shaft spin better. Robots have to fit in 11 by 20 by 15. That is the initial size box. So we actually have 1 inch bigger. It used to be 11 by 19. Team numbers must be displayed on this one. Just like make sure you can take the pins out of your robot. That's imported from a bigger robotics competition where sometimes robots would like actually lock on to the game pieces and like you couldn't get them out, but hopefully that's not an issue. Only 1 brain per robot. Make sure that you can turn off the robot. Make sure you're updated. Make sure you only have 6 motors, I believe is what this one is, R11. Robots can only have 6 motors. You can't add additional motors even if they're not hooked up is what that says. See right up there, you have 1 battery and 1 controller per robot. Oh, this is interesting. Attachments that assist drivers in holding or manipulating the buttons on the V5 controller are permitted. As long as they don't involve any... I hope that's Vex IQ, because that doesn't make sense why it says V5. You can't control... This was basically back in 2014. We had this awesome, like... It was basically a programming skills that had a camera that looked at the driver, and the driver would send hand signals to the robot, so... They're like, yeah, that's not cool. Yeah, basically, you can't do that. Let's see. Where was I? Here we are. Oh, no, here we aren't. Here we are. We were on motors, 1 controller per robot. Robots are built from the Vex IQ product line. Legal non-Vex IQ components. This is always a good one to look at, so I'll check that one out in just a sec. Decorations are allowed. Pneumatics, and then modification of parts. Basically, there's certain parts you can like bend and stuff. Like the plastic sheets are fine to bend, obviously. Let's see. Oh, scoring is going to be different in robot skills, it looks like. Robot and field setup might be a little different. We're going to take a look at that in just a sec. Handling robots during autonomous. Starting autonomous. Autonomous means... Oh, what? It's called autonomous now. It used to be called programming skills. Now it's called autonomous coding skills match. That's cool. Autonomous means no humans. And then how to do skill stop time, which I already know. Head ref has final authority on all gameplay and robot ruling decisions. Head ref has to be qualified. Drive team members can appeal. The event partner has authority. This is just like how tournaments are run. Everything here is just standard. So if you've been to a tournament, nothing has changed so far as I can tell. Fields must be consistent with each other. Ooh, I haven't seen that one. That's new. They must incorporate the same permissible. For example, if one field is elevated, then all the fields must be elevated at the same height. So basically, if you have like one elevated field and one non-elevated field, then make sure that they're the same. That's not okay. Sorry. I've never seen that before, but that's probably normal. I just didn't notice it. Let's see. Teams are ranked on their average scores. They're probably dropping. Tiebreakers, how alliances are formed, is probably standard. Skills ranking, robot skills at a league event. Alright, sweet. That feels pretty good. Alright, so in general, overview, introduction, this is like a bunch of stuff that's like, welcome, we love Vex, and that's awesome, and I'm happy you love Vex, and I'm not going to read it. This is slightly more useful. It's like, oh, here's an article on how to read the game manual. Actually, turns out I'm already telling you this stuff. So you can just watch my video, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be done reading it. About the game manual, this is just basically saying it's like, yeah, this is kind of what they said, and they're saying like things can change a little bit. We don't know. What is this? At the beginning of the season, constraint. We don't know what the winning robot best strategy or most frequently violated rule will be. Isn't that exciting? Yes, it is. That's what we're doing. Use the Q&A. This is just kind of see. This is just like kind of their intention. It looks like there isn't anything significant here. Whoa, chill. I keep clicking these hyperlinks and it's like jumping me all around. There's our intents update. This is when they're going to release. So this is the one that I'm looking at just for reference. In just a few days, the Q&A is going to open, and then they're going to have some more updates probably. And by June 26th, they'll have kind of their main version of it. All right. Q&A system, how that works. If you've never used the Q&A, basically if there's a rule that's unclear in the game manual, what you do is you read the game manual, make sure that like it's not already clarified, make sure there's not a Q&A that like already answers the question most probably, and then you are like, hey, you know, specifically R6 is unclear in this situation. Say, you know, I'm carrying 2 pins and someone chucks a 3rd pin at me, then would I be in violation of this? And you cite the rule and everything. These are like a bunch of other documents that also are binding to you. This is how you judge, this is how you qualify for competitions. This is just like protecting minors. This is making sure students are building the robot, all that good stuff. Sweet. Alright, this is just like the game overview. This is kind of what it's going to look like. I'm just going to like read it real quick. This tells me where the pins are. That's super helpful. There's 2 beams, 1 floor goal, 2 square goals, 2 triangle goals, 1 standoff goal. I don't know. All that looks pretty straightforward. Oh, here. This is super useful. This is what the field looks like. Check that out. What? Why did the colors change? Oh, it's just like showing you what each of the things are. Oh, and then this is where you stand. And so the ref is supposed to stand there. Drive team members stand on either side of the field. This is actually kind of new and kind of obnoxious, maybe? This is going to be really interesting because the drive team members stand on opposite sides of the field, and you're like, hang on a sec. Why? Um, that means that because historically you would often have either your loader or whoever wasn't driving, they would like coach another team, especially if they had questions and they were like, should I score this in the goal? And they're like, yes, score it, or it'll be like, no, 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 don't score it, don't score it. Um, yeah, all right. So that's interesting. General game definitions. This I'm just gonna skim over. I'm gonna see if there's any of these that are specific. Um, that I want to learn more about. Basically, the idea is it's just defining things, but it has useful stuff in certain definitions. So, like a driver is a student team member. That was not what I was looking for. I was looking for the student. It's gonna tell you about students. Where is it? Oh, weird. All right, let me just click on student. Basically, a student, anyone born after May 1st, 2010. Elementary school students is May 1st, 2013 for the cutoff for like their age, I guess. Let's see, other things. Drive station is the region beside the field where the drivers must remain. Drivers, they drive the match, driver robots for half the match. There's the field, there's the entire game field. Field element is all the things. The field perimeter is the outside. The floor is the bottom of the field. The game design committee, they're the ones who made it. Physical component on the robot displays the team number. This is just the spec of them, but just that's fine. Autonomous coding period, driver control period, pretty straightforward. A robot, something that's yeah, pretty straightforward. This is what a robot is. This is what a student is. A team. You have to have 3 students on a team now. And then they're going to tell you more about how that looks like. Violations. So minor violation is one that basically if you get a minor violation, and you'll see that language of minor violation show up in the rules, it says you won't get disqualified. Major violation, you'll get disqualified. Score affecting means if it improves the alliance's score at the end of the match. So if you break a rule in a way that like decreases your score, then it doesn't mean you won't get disqualified, but it means it is not score affecting, as you'll see in just a second. That's important. So, some rules have specific violation notes, most don't. Basically, here you go. So, this is what refs do when you break a rule. So, say that, I don't know, there's a rule that says that your robot cannot be more than 20 inches long, which is true. And your robot does something and now it's suddenly 30 inches long. And you're like, whoa, what happened? So it says, rule was violated. Great. Does the rule have a specific guidance? Basically, is there red italicized text under the rule? If the answer is yes, then you do this. If the answer is no, then you say, all right, was it score affecting? That's where the score affecting comes in. Basically, say that your robot got 30 inches long and as a result you decreased your score. That's not score affecting. All right, so no. Maybe you like knocked over one of your stacks or something. Was it a G1, S1, or code of conduct violation? Most likely not. If your robot got 30 inches long, unless like saw blades popped out and it was an S1 violation, I think that this would be no. Has the Alliance already received multiple minor violations for this rule? If this is the first time your robot leapt out to 30 inches unexpectedly and was supposed to be 20, then no. If it's happened once, then you haven't received multiple, so this would be on your, it's kind of like a 3 strikes you're out thing. You get a minor violation for that. So, if it had like jumped out to 30 inches and suddenly scored all the pins, then that would be a major violation. And DQ, disqualification. Sweet. Some other things. Oh, connected. Oh no, that's gonna explain it later. Cleared. Also gonna explain it later. Square goal. Ooh, this is kind of important. So what I'm gonna look. Each goal is bordered by the inside field perimeter. Each square goal has a color: red, blue. Each square goal. Wait. Ah, there it is. It's bordered by the inside of the field perimeter and inside of the ramps. So basically, if you're trying to stack a pin on the floor goal, the ramps are not part of the goal. The floor goal. Here's like, it's this white line that defines the floor goal, it looks like. And it includes the white line. So it on the line or inside is good, outside is bad. Triangle goal. And then the triangle goal, the goal is like inside here. It's not on top of the PVC pipe though also. The load zone is just this beam. That is the load zone. Matching goal we'll talk about later. Placed. Preload we'll talk about later also. Objects. Aha, here's details. Pin that's orange, blue, or red. Cylindrical object. 3.15 inches, 4.5 inches high. It weighs about 2.5 ounces, 75 grams. And then the beam is a rough gray object that weighs about 6 ounces or 170 grams. Sweet. Some pins start on what's called a starting pin support. And so like the pin starts kind of like that. Aha, and here's the scoring rules. Scoring rules are the most important in my opinion. You have to make sure that you kind of know how they work. Every connected pin is worth 1 point. Each connected beam is worth 10 points. Every 2 color stack gives you a 5-point bonus. 3 colors will give you a 15-point bonus. I think this bonus is probably going to be the most valuable of them all, just because it's the most, and it's not that hard to get. Each stack placed in a matching goal or having a connected beam is going to be a 10-point bonus. Just to know, just so it's like clear, if you have a stack that has a beam in it and you score it in a goal, that's not worth any more points. It's just still one 10-point bonus. Every stack that's on the standoff goal is going to be a 10-point bonus. Each cleared starting pin, so every one of these things that you knock the thing off of is going to be 2 points. And then if for some, basically there's going to be a rule that says, just because I've read this before, there's a rule that says that if you're touching your stack at the end of the match, it's worth no points, except if it's actually worth 2 points. So basically they kind of give you like some little pity points, I guess, as a like, hey, sorry you were touching your stack when the timer expired. Take this, even though it's like nothing compared to that 70-point stack you built. So that's kind of a bummer, but you know, at least some points is better than no points. Let's see. Other things. SC1. All scoring statuses are evaluated after the match ends. That's pretty straightforward. So you can't look at videos after a match. Drive team members have to... Whoa. This is not what I was trying to click. It's right here. A scored object can be connected to another scoring object to form a stack. To be connected, the stack has to be vertical and cannot be touching a robot. So basically anything touching a robot is not scored. They can be connected either up from a floor or standoff goal or up from a beam. A pin has to be fully nested within another scoring object to count. All right, sorry about that. The plumber was just like needing to get paid. So here we are, back on the rules. Basically, let's see, scoring objects need to be connected to each other in order to be scored. Long story short, I think what it's saying is a few key things. A beam can only be connected to 3 pins simultaneously, and they all have to be fully nested. So basically, you can't like, well, here, it's got a good picture right here. This doesn't count as scored. See how this pin is not like inside the beam? Just stacking them up like this doesn't count. You have to flip them upside down. It has to look like this. So this is not scored. This is. You see the difference is this pin is upside down, and so is this one, obviously. So that's something to be aware of. So each beam can be part of 3 separate stacks. That's actually helpful. That was, I think, pretty obvious in the game animation, but I'll explain that later. Be aware that if anything's tipped at the end of the match, they're not connected to other scoring objects, then they don't count towards anything except for the 2 points earned if you're holding the stack at the end of the match. Stack that, whoa, chill, there we go. Stack that has, stack that has multiple colors. This is that one where I was like, I think that 15-point bonus is going to be huge. Stack that is placed in a goal if there's at least 2 objects connected to it. If it meets all of this. So there has it basically to be in a goal. You have to have at least 2 pins in your stack. No part of the stack can be touching a robot. And the stack is entirely within the outline of the floor goal. You only have 4 stacks in the floor goal, though. You can't, like, shove more in. You can, so basically the yellow goal in the middle, it looks like can hold 4 stacks. Each corner goal that's a square can hold 1 stack, and each triangle goal can hold 3 stacks. So that's good to know. And it has to be fully within side. Or you could have a stack that's connected to the standoff. With up to 1 beam in it. This does bring up a slightly interesting question, and balancing it would be really hard, but there's a question like, could you have, like, it's gonna fall over unless you do some kind of crazy stuff here, but theoretically, could you get both beams on top of the standoff goal, potentially? That would be a really fascinating question. The answer is probably not, because I don't think you can get the pins to nest properly. In fact, I know the pins wouldn't, so that each stack can only have 1. Oh, yeah. Wait, there's also a rule that says each stack can only have 1 beam in it. So, yes, the answer to that is you cannot have both beams on it. Though it does sound like, yeah. Let's see. So basically, kind of the key takeaway from this rule is when you're putting them in these goals, you can have 4 in this goal, 3 in this goal, 1 in this goal, and be aware that you have to be fully inside. If it's like up on this lip at all, it's not going to count. Or if it's outside of this white line, it can be on the line, but it can't be outside of the line, then it also won't count. So that's worth noting. The bottom pin is what determines if you get bonus. And then also this is saying it doesn't, if there's a beam in your stack, it automatically counts for all of the stacks to have that little bonus of like you putting it in a goal. So if you have a beam stack, say that like you built this stack, don't put it in a goal, like don't score it, don't put it in one of those corners or in that yellow thing in the middle, because the beam will already give it credit for that. Whereas, you know, something like this, it has to be put in on the goal. The only thing that's worth doing is taking this beam stack and putting it on the center peg. And that's like, that's a good use of it. But outside of that, like, you might as well just leave it in the field. All right, let's see. This is the pity points I was talking about. A robot gets 2 points at the end of the match if you're touching scoring objects, where basically the idea is if you're touching 2 or more game pieces at the end of the match, then you get 2 points. Duh. That's not what I wanted to do. Wish you would stop jumping like that. Here's some kind of cool examples. I'm just going to walk through them real quick because they're actually helpful. This one, it's worth 15 points for each. Sorry, it's worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points for the pins plus 10 points for the beams. So you're at 16 points so far. That's these top two. 16, you're going to get 15, 30, 45 additional points because there's like 3 stacks and they're 3 colors each. You see how the beam is acting as blue for this stack, red for this stack, and blue for this stack. So it's going to be 45 points. And then additionally, because it has the beam, all of these count as like quote scored in a goal thing. It's in like one of these basically you've scored the stack is what I'm going to call it. You've like put the stack in one of these, either in the center thing or in a corner. And at that point, that's going to give you another 30 points. Add it all up, you get 91 points. That's quite a bit. This is the same thing. You just flip the thing over. It doesn't matter. Still 91. This one is going to be 71. Why? Because this is like upside down. These pins are counting for nothing. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. These are still stacked. They're just not part of the beam. And you can actually see. Wait a sec. Oh, yeah, I see. So these guys, instead of like getting the 15-point bonus, only got the 5-point bonus. They missed the beam thing, and so you ended up losing 20 points because of it. So don't do that. Instead, flip your pins over if you can. This is worth 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a sec. Yeah, and then 2 color stacks. The beam doesn't count as scored at all because the beam is like tilted. Basically, if they'd gotten the beam across, this would have been like mid 60s. This is 0 points. The thing's tipped over at the end of the match. If a robot were to come by and touch this though, and grab it at the end of the match, then it would be worth 2 points. This is worth quite a few points. You're willing to take this thing, throw it on top of that standoff. That's going to be worth 38 points. Basically 3 points for the pins. 15 points because they're like as a 3-color stack. It's on the correct color, right? It's yellow as the bottom pin. It's in like a yellow stack. That's going to be an additional 10 points. Plus, it's on the standoff, so just 10 more points automatically gives you 38. That's a good one. And then this is like that crazy thing that this is like the ideal. Is if you can get this, it's worth 121 points. Here, this is going to be worth 2 points because the robot's touching it at the end. This one, it's like, bummer, but at least you still got these 2 stacks. This stack is just negated. And then this is horrible because now your robot is touching like everything because the beam counts as like part of all of the stacks, and so you only get 2 points. So let go of your stacks at the end of the match. Safety rules, I told you I was going to skip those. General rules, I told you I was going to skip those too. They're important, don't get me wrong. But like read them if you have questions about them. There's like each student can only be on one team. You can't be like moving your best coder to all of your teams. But then like say that it's January and one of your students' dad is in the military and he gets placed in New York, it's fine for that student to like leave California, move to New York, and join a team in New York. Like that's reasonable. So yeah. General game rules. This is pretty straightforward. Like, stay in the driver's station as you're driving. Robots should be at every match. Make sure you are like reasonably fast and getting ready to play. Don't stack the pins with your hands. Let's see. Replays are allowed. Mainly, it's if there's a field fault. So, like, if there's something. That's actually the wrong use of score affecting. because score affecting specifically means it increased your score. I'm assuming that this also refers to if the score is decreased. That's something that'll probably be addressed in Q&A. Basically, if there's like some kind of field fault that results in your score decreasing instead of increasing, that seems valid for a match replay. And technically score affecting based on the definition they gave back in definitions. Here, I'll show you for you. It has to improve the score. So I assume that's something that will be addressed. Let's see. Hands out of the field. Match replays are allowed but rare. DQs. Teams that are DQ'd basically get a score of 0. If it's quals, if it's finals, you and your partner get a score of 0. If it's robot skills, you just get a score of 0. There's no timeouts in IQ. We were joking about that earlier. You can't split in half during the robot. You can't like drop a ramp and then like climb up the ramp. You can't do lots of things like that. So yeah, like say hypothetically you wanted it to be easier to push the pins into the corner goal. So you like built a ramp out of Vex IQ and then dropped that on the field right in front of the goal, and now you're like going over and you're pushing the pins up the ramp. That's a brilliant idea. That's objectively illegal though, so we're not going to do that. If your robot like falls apart though, they're not going to disqualify you for that. Don't damage the field. This is the robot reset. Basically, if you want to reset your robot mid-match, like say your robot, something goes horribly wrong and you want to like put it back kind of in a starting position, you can do that. What you're going to do is you're going to pull any scoring objects out of the robot, and then they can be returned by a loader. This means controlled, not just touching it. So if it's like in your claw, but it's fine if like, you know, you were just touching something. You don't have to reload that game piece. You have to be put back into a legal starting position. You can't like do a robot reset and add more stuff to your robot. If like the robot fell apart, you can fix it, but I guess you can't add more stuff. Not sure how that was happening. You cannot step onto the field at any time, so if you can't reach it, ask the ref and they'll push it to you. Switch drivers halfway through the match. A driver can also be a loader in the same match. That's just important to know. If a drive team member has only 2 members, one must serve as driver until mid-match, and the driver switches to second drive. Team member can either be a loader for the full match, but you cannot fill both roles. And you have to stop driving. Make sure that you switch, and this is violation notes basically. You can get disqualified for it. Stop moving it to the end of the match. Basically just stop moving it. Don't use a pre-programmed routine. There was a thing back in Next Level where students would like at 1 second left hit the climb button on the robot and it would take 5 seconds to climb, and Vex got upset, and so since then, very justifiably upset, and since then they've had this rule that's like pre-programmed routine is out of the spirit of this rule. This is saying basically initially teams are going to be warned, and then if you're like consistently driving after the buzzer, then they'll start counting it against you. But basically the idea is like, say there's a buzzer beater scoring thing that's happening, like I don't know, it's 1 second left and you're like trying to score a pin, let go for it. And if they judge that it was before the end of the match, then they're going to give it to you. And if they think that it was after the end of the match, then they won't give it to you. And just be okay with that. One note on this is the match is over when the buzzer starts, not when the buzzer ends. It's not like Sleeping Beauty's midnight is on the 12th dawn. Let's see. Ending a match early, you can drop your controllers and look at the head ref and be like, hey, we're ending early if you want. Realistically, only do that in a tiebreaker match, which I'm not going to talk about. Specific game rules, you got to start within that 11, 20, 15 size box. Wait, what? Oh, not contacting any goals. Oh, so this is starting locations. So basically, as you're starting, you can't be touching any of these goals. You can't be touching any other game pieces except for the one that you start with. You can't have anything spinning or like ready to go other than you can have charged your pneumatics ahead of time. And it says you have to start the match touching this back bar. So you can kind of be wherever, but you gotta start touching this back bar. Robots cannot expand horizontally between the 11 by... Oopsies. Did not want to click that. Come on, there it is. Sorry, we're getting back. There you go. You can't expand beyond 11 by 20, so make sure you stay in that size box. You could obviously suck something in on one side and then stick out the other side, and that's fine. But just make sure you're always within that. Vertical expansion is unlimited. It's not limited. Keep scoring objects on the field. See. Scoring objects that accidentally leave the field can be picked up and reintroduced by the loader, but it matters the color. A blue pin that leaves the field can only be introduced by a blue loader in the blue load zone. Red pin can only be reintroduced by a red loader in the red load zone. Orange pin or a beam that leaves the field basically is given to whoever was closest to it when it fell out, and that loader has to reintroduce it. If it's falling out of the field, I love this rule. This one's hilarious. If a scoring object's on its way out of the field, but it's deflected by a drive team member, field member ceiling, or wall, or other external factor, then you can the head ref can decide that it was supposed to be out of the field. The funny part of it is, like, since when does the ceiling, like, take a game piece that was on its way out of the field and deflect it back in? But, you know, it's there. It's been there for years, and every year I think it's hilarious. Let's see. If a set of connected leaves the field, they have to be separated. So you can't reintroduce, say, like, a stack falls out of the field, you can't put the stack back in the field. You have to put it in one at a time. Each robot starts with one preload, so you get to start with one pin in your robot. Basically, for teamwork challenges, alright, it has to be touching one robot and cannot touch any field elements, goals, or other scoring objects. Ooh. So the goal thing is pretty obvious. Scoring objects is like, it can't be touching other beams. What is a field element? Does the floor count? Ooh, alright, so this is interesting. Look at this. The floor. So it can't be touching the floor. I should have saved my page number there. Where were we? So as you're putting in your starting peg, you can't have it on the floor, is what this is saying. And if you look at this picture, actually, this is not a legal starting configuration because you see how the pins are on the floor. So this would not be, according to what I'm reading in the rules, I'm thinking, like, that's not legal. All right, that's good to know. And if you're like Ben, you're being absolutely, like, ridiculous about this. You're catching every little tiny thing. The thing is, these nuances. I'm gonna be head referee this year. These nuances are what teams are gonna be upset about. Like, no one disagrees with you when you're like, that's a stack, because it's like really obviously a stack. What they are going to disagree with you about is, say it's like an eighth inch out of that little yellow goal, or maybe it's like on the line but it's not out, and you're like, is that scored or is that not scored? And it turns out it is scored. But if it's an eighth inch out of the line or like hanging out at all, or they put 5 in the center thing, you're like, yeah, you can only have 4. I'm sorry. Um, let's see. Or like, say the other loader starts loading the red pins and it's actually the blue pins they can load. Um, but yeah, let's see. Or maybe someone's trying to like put their pin in, or maybe someone no shows to a match and you have to know that the preload should be put in the match load zone for that team. All right, how do you load? Scoring objects can be loaded into the load zone. Have to meet all of the following criteria. You can only be put in the load zone that matches the color. Wait, what? Alright, so this doesn't make sense to me because, like, obviously red goes in red, blue goes in blue. But what if you're loading an orange pin? So I'm hoping they address that in a sec. Loader make contact. Only put the scoring object in the load zone if there's no other scoring objects already in contact with that load zone. Basically, pick up the pin before you put a new one in. You can only have one at a time. Robot may not contact a scoring object in the load zone. Basically, humans and robots can't touch the scoring object at the same time. That's usually like a safety thing. Here, I think it's just like a gameplay thing. That way you can't just be like cycling the pins in. Once you let go of it, you can't like go back and pick it up again. Oh, this is interesting. Alright, so basically, D says if you put it in, once you let go, you can't pick it up, unless E, if it was introduced illegally, then you have to pick it up again. Not sure why that helps clause D and E. I personally think it helps clause C much more, but that's okay. They can help whatever. Let's see. It says basically your first warning is a minor violation. If it's during quals, if it's during finals, a score affecting, you don't get a warning. It's just immediately a DQ. Sweet. All right, robot rules. Basically, 1 robot per team. That's pretty straightforward. Robot. All right, we're gonna speed through this just so you know. I know most of these rules. Basically, don't bring 2 robots to the tournament. Robot. And if you're curious, like, do I have 2 robots? Like, literally look at them and use common sense. And you're like, yo, do I have 2 robots on the table in front of me, or is it 1? If it's like a robot and a claw, that's fine. If it's like 2 robots, that's not fine. You can't share a robot. Multiple teams cannot use the same robot, even across multiple tournaments. Robots must represent the team's skill level. That's basically, you have to build. Don't buy a robot from China. You have to build your own robot. Pass inspection. If you make a major change, get re-inspected. If you have like multiple configurations, so if you remember last year, some robots had like this giant snout they would attach for skills, but teamwork they wouldn't. They would take that off and drive around like normal. That's what re-inspection is for, or you'd have to inspect in both configurations. If for some reason you discover your robot is not like able to pass inspection and it can't be fixed on the field, like say that I don't know what would happen here. Maybe you like did a massive rebuild and forgot to re-inspect, and in the middle of a tournament, and your robot is now out of size box, then this is where that would apply. If you haven't passed inspection, You can't play in matches. And they have to get re-inspected, yada yada yada. This is like pretty standard stuff. This is where things are. This is just interesting, but like pretty obvious. It's like there's a difference between accidentally and willfully violating a robot rule. So if you like accidentally show up at a tournament and discover that, oh, I don't know, your robot is like a half-inch too long, that's not a big deal. If say that like you probably just didn't measure, especially if like this is your first competition and you didn't like think about it very much, then they're gonna be like, all right, that's chill. But say that hypothetically you're like a super high level team and you decided that you want to take a drill and drill out all of the holes in your drive rails and your intake so that your rollers would spin faster. You drill them out just about 5 or 10 thou bigger. It makes a big difference in terms of how fast the rollers can spin, and it reduces a lot of friction. Um, that would be willfully violating a rule, and that can end up with lots of worse things. You can get disqualified from the entire event, and you can get it reported to REC, and then they can like kill your whole season. So don't do that. Robots have to fit in the starting size constraint, which is that 11, 20, 15. You got to start in that size box. Whoa. Why is the robot? Did I misread the starting rules? I thought the robot had to start touching the. Dang it! I'm gonna come back here. But look, the robot's not touching the starting beam. I'm gonna go check that out. So we're on page 50. We're making good progress, by the way. Starting. Here we are. Starting a match. Fit within it. They must be contacting one of the two triangle structures. Bruh. So for some reason, this picture here, they decided to put the robot in a non-legal starting configuration. Oh, I know exactly why though, actually. It's because they're trying to show that this box on the field can be used for like insta inspection, and it hopefully makes things easier. You get a team number, let go of the stuff after it's over, make sure you only have one brain, make sure you can turn off it, make sure you have the correct Vexos, make sure you only have 6 motors, make sure you only have 1 battery. You can't have multiple batteries on your robot even if they're not connected. Only 1 controller. You can modify the V5 controller. Doesn't say anything about IQ. I'm assuming that is going to be modified. No other methods of controlling the robot. Light, sound are permissible. Basically, you can't like have a flashlight and you're like flashing the sensor on the robot, or a laser would actually be better. I'm giving you advice on how to cheat. That's bad. No, I would do a flashlight. I would do like one of those super concentrated flashlights, and you could like kind of hide it next to your leg and probably like flash the robot, or flash like the sensor on the robot, and then like try and control it that way. Yeah, that's not allowed. It would also be pretty obvious because like there would be this giant white flashing thing on the robot as you're like turning the flashlight on and off, trying to send it signals during an autonomous match, but that's okay. Basically, only build with Vex stuff. Here's the legal and illegal parts appendixes. These are pretty good. In general, you can't have things that like damage the field. Don't damage or entangle robots. No grease, oil, graphite, or any other lubricant or plastic additive is okay. No tape or other material. Can be used, but you can use tape to like attach. Say you have a unicorn poster on your robot. That's okay. You can't use stuff from other Vex lines, like you can't get a Vex Pro motor or something because those are huge. Electrical components from Vex by Hexbug are illegal. Any 3D printed parts are not okay. even non-functional decorations. Not sure why that is, but now 3D printing is like 100% illegal for Vex. The only thing, in fact, is the video I posted earlier where you get 3D print field elements just for like testing with, but you can't actually have 3D print stuff on your robot apparently. There's the illegal parts appendix. Non-Vex components that are illegal is you can have rubber bands from the Vex product line, so 32, 64, 117B, and 170. These are specific dimensions of rubber bands. 1/8 inch metal shafts from V5, you can use all of those that you want. Other products from V5 that are cross-listed, so basically if it says Vex IQ on it, that's fine. The structural stuff from Vex by Hexbug, so just not the electrical components. And the same is true for stuff from Vex Go. Aerosol-based cooling freeze spray may be used to assist in cooling motors. But be aware you can get an S1 violation if you're not being reasonable. You can use cleaners and disinfectants or sanitizers to clean stuff. And they've got some procedures listed out. This can actually be super helpful, just fun life hack. You can't put like sticky stuff on your wheels, but honestly cleaning your wheels makes them so much stickier because there's usually just a level of dust that settles on them. So if you're having your issues with your wheels, like not picking stuff up, it's totally fine to wash them off. I had a joke with Joseph about how he was washing his flaps once, and he made a big joke about it because he thought it wasn't going to work. And then he went to pick up the, I think it was discs we were picking up that year, and he went to pick up the discs, and they just suddenly started working. And so now we joke about washing the flaps. Pretty funny, but let's see. Decorations are allowed. You can decorate it. Pneumatics. You can have 2 air tanks, 1 air pump, and only stuff that's in the pneumatics kit is okay. You can use as many cylinders as you want. Parts can't be modified except you can cut the metal shafts. You can bend things like string, rubber bands, or thin plastic sheets. You can cut pneumatic tubing, or you can tie knots and shorten. You can tie knots in the string, or tie knots in rubber bands. And in general, you can do like just about anything you want to the rubber bands. You can tie them all together and make a big net out of them if you want. Sweet. Robot skills. We're almost at the end. We're coming down to the short roads. I know we're at 57 of 86. Let's see. Driving skills match. Autonomous skills match. It's now instead of it's autonomous coding, not programming skills, I guess. So we've got a driving skills and we've got an autonomous match. Robot skills match is either of them. Skill stop time. In general, like let's see. Robot skills matches, just for the most part, same rules apply for each robot. Scoring is all the same. Some changes that are worth noting. The field looks different. The robot is... It's set up the same as for teamwork, except it's different. Look at this. It has to start in contact with the red structure, so you can't start over here. You have to use the red loading zone to load pins. And I assume there's going to be a rule that comes later that says you can load both red, blue, and yellow pins or orange pins in the red zone, because technically that's still illegal if you're holding to this rule up here. Let's see. Load all criteria. In driving skills, any driver who's not driving can serve as a loader. So you can have up to 3 loaders at any given time. There's no blue loading zone. Scoring objects can only be introduced to the red zone. Any scoring object that leaves the field should be given to the team's human loader and be reintroduced into the red zone. Let's see. During autonomous skills, this one's pretty standard, but a lot of teams don't know about it. Basically, during autonomous, if you're able to have your robot like drive out, and then you can do as many robot resets as you want. So that's worth knowing. That's what that one's saying. Starting, you can have like a button on your robot to push it. Just like be reasonable in terms of speed. No human interaction. During a programming skills match, skill stop time is only used in tiebreakers and is super rare. And that's it. Oh, here's the event. So this is just how events are run. Head refs have final authority. Head refs have to be qualified. Drive team members can appeal the head ref's decision. The event partner runs the entire rest of the event and can get you in trouble for other things like robbing the concession stand. Be prepared for minor field variance. The tolerance is up to half an inch, which is kind of impressive, especially like because these pins won't stack if they're a half inch too small. But that's okay. We'll just assume that that's not an issue. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So if a pin is missing, they could replace it with a pin of a different color, is what this technically says. I don't know about that. You could use off-the-shelf PVC pipe to replace missing pipe if needed. But you have to make sure they're all the same. If you add like lights to your field, you have to do it to all the fields. Qualification matches have to occur according to the match schedule. That's pretty straightforward. Just follow the match schedule. Each team has scheduled qualification matches. You need to have at least 6 qual matches per team at a local event and 8 at a championship event. You're ranked by your average score. And if you have basically at every tournament, they'll drop at least 1 score. If you have over 8 matches, they'll drop 2 scores. If you have 12 or more matches, they will drop 3 scores. That's super unusual. You can play a surrogate match, is what this is saying. This is you can just ignore that. Basically, sometimes one team will have to play 1 bonus match. Let's see. Teamwork matches, it's just random. Oh. For finals, it's going to be the first and second, third, and fourth ranked team. Number of teams in finals matches is determined by the event partner. If the event qualifies for the world champion, basically it states they have to have at least 5 finals matches, but really at the event partner gets to decide. Finals match schedule is pretty straightforward. Basically, the lowest ranked team who made it to finals is going to be the first one to play. And then this is how ties are resolved. Basically, if there's a tie for first place, then it's going to be you're going to have a replay, and they'll record match stop time. If there's a tie for second or third place, whoever's ranked higher is going to just automatically win. Skills match schedule. For the most part, it's just first come, first served. And figure out kind of how that's going to work. If you elevate teamwork fields, you don't have to elevate the skills field. That's like running an event. Let's see. Skills at events. This is just explaining kind of how it works, how they're ranked. For the most part, you add your autonomous coding skills and your driver skills scores together. And then the same is true for being globally. This is stuff for leagues. Most people aren't in leagues. Basically, this is how skills are ranked at league events. We can look through that later. And this stuff is actually super helpful, but I'm not going to read it because it's just pictures of the game elements and details about like what they are and how they look. For some reason, they didn't include weights on these. Usually, you would include the weight on this drawing, and that would be helpful, and also the material. But for some reason, this title block here just, I don't know, it looks cool. here's like, oh, fascinating. This is a standard. This is an ISO standard. To be honest, I'm just used to ANSI standards. I don't know why Vex used an ISO standard, like everyone in the US uses an ANSI standard, but that's okay. They can use ISO standards if they want to. That's just like how the drawing looks. Yeah, so this is like pictures of the game elements, kind of dimensions if you want to build your own and you don't have it for some reason. Here's the corner goals, here's the like more corner goals. That's the field, and then this is the thing we read at the beginning, the summary. And that's the end. So we've read all 86 pages. It was just over an hour. Good work. Nicely done, team. Hopefully this is helpful, and I'll look forward to seeing how this is updated and what happens in Vex IQ competition, Nix and Match.